There's a lot of advice out there about what to focus on when you're trying to land a job in commercial real estate, but to see what employers actually care about most in today's hiring market, I wanted to analyze what real estate job postings are saying that companies are looking for right now. And to make that happen, I used AI to analyze over 50 analyst and associate job postings on selectleaders.com, which is arguably the most prominent commercial real estate job board used by private equity firms, investors, brokers, and lenders in this industry. So in this video, we'll cover the most in-demand skills for real estate analysts and associates today based directly on real-time data and the things that you should be focusing on most to stand out from the competition. So to narrow down the most important skills that analysts and associate candidates should be focusing on today, I asked AI to scrape all jobs with an analyst or associate title on selectleaders.com and then identify the most commonly mentioned required skills across these listings. And the number one most commonly mentioned skill, which showed up in about 85% of these job postings, is something we talk about all the time on this channel, and this is advanced Excel skills. This really shouldn't come as a surprise to anyone who's worked in this industry before, but Excel is absolutely foundational to almost everything you'll do as an analyst or associate in commercial real estate, and employers will expect you to be very familiar with this software before starting a full-time role. I would also say that even though there are hundreds of built-in Excel functions, only a handful of these are actually relevant to commercial real estate, so it's important to make sure you're focusing as much of your time as possible on learning specific Excel skills rather than trying to memorize everything. I know I harp on this a lot on this channel, but this really is that important, and the more you can demonstrate your Excel skills on your resume and during the interview process, the more likely you're going to end up beating out other candidates. Now, coming in at the second most commonly mentioned skill on this list, with about 65% of job postings mentioning this, is financial modeling and pro forma model creation. And this means that employers are looking for candidates today that not only know Excel, but can take that knowledge a step further and actually apply it to building out cash flow projections and calculating investment returns. Most real estate firms are looking for analysts that have the ability to both work in pre-built models and also create their own financial models from scratch when they need to. And the more you can speak to either projects you've worked on or courses you've taken that can help demonstrate that you have these skills, the better off you're going to be during the application process. Now, the third most commonly mentioned skill in these job postings is really a combination of two different things, and this is a strong knowledge of real estate asset management and acquisitions. In this specific data set, the term asset management came up at about 70% of listings, and the term acquisitions came up at about 55% of listings, making both of these some of the most sought after skills by employers in this industry. On the asset management side, job postings primarily cited a preference for candidates that can build and maintain models that monitor property performance over time, create cash flow projections for individual assets or a portfolio as a whole, and handle budgeting and investor reporting duties on a regular basis. And on the acquisition side, job postings mostly cited a preference for candidates with strong underwriting abilities, a solid understanding of the due diligence process, and the ability to create presentations and pitch decks for both lenders and equity investors. Now, especially for entry-level positions, most companies aren't going to expect candidates to have multiple years of full-time experience doing all of these things, but you'll want to go into an interview at least being familiar with these concepts and ideally having some internship experience where you were exposed to the acquisitions or the asset management process. Now, the fourth most common skill mentioned by employers came up at about 60% of job postings, and this is a strong knowledge of real estate underwriting. And underwriting is really the process of using the financial models that you or your company build, incorporating operating and sale assumptions based on market research, and then using those cash flow projections that you create to value commercial properties. Especially if you're looking to land a job in acquisitions or investment sales, real estate firms are looking for new hires who feel comfortable analyzing rent rolls and financial statements, conducting market research to validate their assumptions, and identifying potential risks that could impact an investment. And again, this means that if you have any experience analyzing potential investment opportunities, whether that's been in full-time jobs, internships, or even in the classroom, this is definitely something you want to highlight on your resume and on your cover letters. Now, the next most common skills employers are looking for showed up in about 50% of these job postings, and these are conducting due diligence and researching a market. A lot of firms want their incoming analysts to have experience finding market rent or sale comps analyzing supply and demand dynamics, and working with industry databases like CoStar or Yardi Matrix. So if you've done any of these things in the past, these are also all worth highlighting. A lot of analyst and associate roles will also have you heavily involved with the due diligence process when a property is under contract. So companies will also be looking for candidates that can effectively communicate with attorneys, brokers, and consultants all at the same time. And again, if this is something you're familiar with, even if this was just passive exposure to the due diligence process during an internship where you were able to see how this was done in real time, this is also an experience worth adding to your resume. Now, the next most common keywords here showed up in about 45% of job postings, and these are the terms IRR, return metrics, and discounted cash flow or DCF. On top of just being able to build models and create cash flow projections in Excel, employers will also expect analysts and associates to be able to interpret those cash flow projections and do something with that information. This often includes things like calculating the IRR, the equity multiple, or the cash-on-cash return of an investment, building out an equity waterfall model to analyze returns to JV equity partners, or building out a sensitivity analysis to analyze the impact of different potential market conditions on investment returns. And again, even if you don't have direct on-the-job experience doing these things, if you've taken a course on these subjects or calculated these metrics in a case study or a class project, these are also things worth noting when applying for open positions. Now, finally, the last skill I want to mention here came up in about 40% of job postings on select leaders, and this is the ability to create investor materials. Especially for transaction-focused roles, again, in acquisitions or investment sales, companies want to hire analysts and associates who can not only run the numbers on a potential investment, but can also tell a compelling story about that opportunity and present complex financial information to potential capital partners in a clear and digestible way. And this means that any experience you have creating presentation materials for investors or senior leadership, even if that was in a different industry altogether, would be very helpful to highlight within your applications, especially if you have direct experience actually presenting this information to your team. Now, one thing I found really interesting that's worth noting about this analysis is that among these 50 plus job postings I looked at, less than 10% of these mentioned anything about AI. And even among the postings that did mention AI skills, several of these referred to analysts working alongside a more dedicated tech or data science team focusing directly on AI implementation. So while these tools are definitely worth familiarizing yourself with to speed up your workflows on a day-to-day basis, your Excel skills, your financial modeling skills, and your knowledge of real estate underwriting are all significantly more important to employers during the hiring process. And if you want to make sure you have those Excel financial modeling and underwriting skills that companies are looking for today, and you're prepared to pass an Excel modeling exam that might be given you during the interview process at commercial real estate investment, development, brokerage, or lending firms, make sure to check out our all-in-one membership training platform, Breaking a CRE Academy. A membership to the Academy will give you instant access to over 120 hours of video training on real estate financial modeling and analysis. You'll get access to hundreds of practice Excel interview exam questions, sample acquisition case studies, and you'll also get access to the Breaking a CRE Analyst Certification exam, which covers topics like real estate pro forma and development modeling, commercial real estate lease modeling, equity waterfall modeling, and many other real estate financial analysis concepts that will help you prove to employers that you have what it takes to tackle the responsibilities of an analyst or associate at a top real estate firm. And if you like this video and want to see more content on the commercial real estate job market and what employers are looking for today, make sure to hit the like button and let me know. And let me know in the comments what other aspects of the job search you'd like to see covered in more detail. As always, thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope you found this helpful. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already to see more videos like this every single week, and I'll see you in the next video.